Good morning, committee, and welcome to members of the public joining us today, both in person and online. This is the 19th of January 2023 meeting of the Western and Southern Area Planning Committee, which is one of the 3 area-based planning committees of the Dorset Council. Our area remit covers the previous Weymouth and Portland Borough Council and most of the previous West Dorset District Council areas. The Planning Committee is not a public meeting, but a meeting to which the public are invited. All attendees must comply with the ruling of the chair. They must not interrupt the meeting or cause undue disturbance. To support this, please switch off your mobile phones or select silent modes for the duration of the meeting. Members of the public are allowed to record or film any part of the meeting. However, they should conform to the protocol for filming and audio recording of public council meetings and not distract from the proceedings. Those filming should only focus upon those directly involved in the conduct of the meeting. The meeting is also being live streamed, and a copy of the recording will be available to view on the council website after the meeting. No fire alarm test is expected. If the fire alarm sounds, can all present leave the building as quickly as possible by way of the closest exit and follow the directions to the nearest assembly point away from the civic offices. Public amenities can be located in the foyer of County Hall adjacent to the entrance. Members of the public who have given advance notice of their wish to speak on an application will be invited to address the committee for a maximum of 3 minutes. No material is to be circulated to members of the committee. For the benefit of the public, my name is Councillor David Shortell, and I'm chairman of this area planning committee. And my vice chairman is Councillor Bill Pipe. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, members. Good morning, public.
Now, to introduce all other members of the committee, Councillor Dave Bolwell. Good morning, Dave. Councillor Kelvin Clayton. Good morning, Kelvin. Councillor Susan Cocking. Councillor Jean Dunseth. Good morning, Jean. Good morning, Councillor Nick Arlen. Good morning, Nick. Good morning. Councillor Paul Kimber. Good morning, Paul. Councillor Louis O'Leary. Good morning, Louis. Oh, you moved. Good morning, Louis. Councillor Kate Weller. Councillor Sarah Williams. Good morning, Sarah. And Councillor John Worth. Good morning, John. Officers involved in the meeting include Anne Collins, Area Manager, Western and Southern Team, Laura Altree, our lawyer, Joe Langrish-Merritt, Robert Parr and Thomas Wild, Planning Officers, Katrina Trevitt, Team Leader, Western and Southern, Elaine Tibble, Senior Democratic Services, apologise, Elaine, and Josh Kennedy, Democratic Services Apprentice. Good morning, Josh. Morning to you. Apologies.
Apologies.
I got to put my teeth in today. Apologies. To confirm any apologies for absence.
So we've received apologies from councillors Kate Weller and Susan Cocking.
Thank you for that. Okay, that's item 1 on the agenda. Item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Does any member have any declarations of pecuniary or other conflict of interest, bias or predetermination regarding any item on the agenda?
Councillor Clayton, Chairman.
Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Chair. First item, I think, of the applicant is Bridport Town Council, and as I'm a councillor on Bridport Town Council, I've been informed I need to leave the room.
Councillor Bolwell, Chairman, followed by Councillor Williams.
Councillor Bolwell.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Same as my fellow councillor here. I'm a Bridport Town Councillor as well.
The same reason.
Thank you. Thank you all. Okay, then I'll ask you to withdraw prior to item 5A on the agenda. Item 3 on the agenda to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of December 2022. Has all members received a copy of those minutes?
Mhm.
Thank you. If members are content, I will sign those minutes as a true record of what took place.
Consent, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda, public participation. Only those people who have registered to speak with Democratic Services will be invited to address the committee. The order of speaking will normally be the first 3 in objection and the first 3 in support, including the applicant or agent. If a ward councillor who is not a member of the committee wishes to address the meeting, they will be allowed 3 minutes to do so. Neither the objectors or supporters will normally be questioned, except to clarify a point of fact by the chairman. All written statements received by Democratic Services have been passed to members prior to the meeting. Committee will now take item 5 on the agenda. We have 3 planning applications before us today for consideration. A comfort break of 5 or 10 minutes will be taken as and when is requested. I will now ask the 3 Bridport councillors to withdraw. Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll now take item 5A on the agenda, PFUL 2022-0228, Old Dairy Site Rope Walks, Bridport, DT6 3RH. And that's to erect a building to be used for storage, offices, and associated ancillary uses. I now invite Katrina Trevitt, a council officer, to introduce this item. Over to you, Katrina.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this application has been brought to Planning Committee because Dorset Council are the landowners. No objections have been raised to the application overall, and the application has been applied for by the Bridport Town Council to erect a bespoke building really to be used for storage, offices and associated amenity uses for the range of cultural, arts and community organisations within the town. So this is specifically responding to a need for providing this type of accommodation and also to comply with the neighbourhood plan policy specifically for Bridport, which seeks to enhance cultural and arts organisations within the town. The proposal is for a 2-storey building with ground floor storage space and first floor workshops, including photography studio, meeting room, kitchenette and workshops. And it's intended that this building will generally be used for those organisations to meet, to be able to prepare for functions or say theatre productions, etc. It will be used for the storage of materials, preparation of props and repairs, and also generally used by volunteers and employed staff. The site location is to the south of West Street and to the northeast of Rope Walks car park. So it's very much in the centre of Bridport within the central conservation area. And you can see here on the aerial screen that actually it's a vacant plot basically. There is historical use of 2 buildings having previously been situated on the land, although we're unsure as to when they were actually demolished. It obviously became scrub at some point, although that's been cleared away recently and is actually a form of ad hoc parking at the moment. This is just a copy of the historical plans showing how that site was previously developed. So you had the map showing the bakery in the mid 1962 to 1971. And then 1985, you then had the dairy building on site here. And this is what it looks like today. So it's visually quite poor, to be fair. This is very much a service area behind all of the commercial buildings, etc., that front onto West Street. So it's slightly unloved. It's been cleared. The cars, you know, the ad hoc parking there at the moment, but it's very much a kind of blank area. And this is again looking further into the site. So basically, the new building will sit within this fenced area at the moment, and there is intention to improve the boundary treatments around the site. And again, just another photo looking into that site. I just wanted to put up a couple of examples of more modern build that's taking place around that car park area. So you can see here the rear of Waitrose. You've got a number of, there's some flats here and a florist building here within a very modern development. And this is actually a terrace of residential dwellings, which are just opposite the site, really, to the south on the other side of the Ropeworks car park, public car park. So the key constraints and designations, as I've said, it's within the conservation area, it's within the setting of a number of listed buildings and within the town centre area. This is just a block plan of the proposed building going on the site. So it's clearly making best use of that site. I think it's about 68% of the site being taken up by this proposed kind of bespoke building. They're intending to have one parking space dedicated for the user of the building, as well as a loading bay. There will be an electrical car charging point here, also cycle parking, but obviously it's within the town centre. There's plenty of available public car parking just opposite, to be fair, but a very sustainable location for other modes of transport for using the building. This is the proposed ground floor, just showing you the kind of layout of the storage area and office space. And again, at first floor, just showing how that space is to be divided up. So it really will kind of cater for those smaller community and arts groups that wish to facilitate the building. This was the plans, or this is the proposed elevation plans when it was initially submitted, and there was concern raised by the conservation officer as well as the case officer regarding the very modern nature, top heavy and very industrial look to this building. It's since been negotiated, and this is now the proposed plan. It's very kind of foundry-ish type with the triple gable. And, you know, we've got some tax windows here just to add a little bit of interest, but make sure that it, you know, it doesn't appear blank. It will respond to the local materials, the brick that's actually going on elsewhere around the car park as well. But overall, we feel that this does respond to that context of Bridport far more. I think an example of that triple roof form is the brewery, as well as some foundry buildings generally. So the main issues is the principle of the development, sustainably located, as I've mentioned. It's an appropriate use within the town centre. It's really going to support that community arts, cultural base within Bridport, which is really strong. This will also enable the town council to be able to guide people as to where they can use premises such as this, which they say is really a need for the town. So it's going to support that. It will support the neighbourhood plan in seeking to enhance that. We consider that the design and impact on heritage assets has been improved through the amendments with no harm to the conservation area or the setting of listed buildings, and it will preserve and enhance the conservation area. In terms of archaeology, this was just something that flagged up. Basically, there's no remaining archaeological interest on the site, so that's been dealt with. In terms of amenity, it's well spaced, there's no neighbouring amenity impacts, and access and parking, as we've already walked through, is considered to be acceptable. Making best use of the site, basically, with plenty of public car parking surrounding. Therefore, we are recommending there's a grant of planning permission subject to conditions, which will be the 3-year time limit, approved plans, details of materials, details of windows, details of hard landscaping and the boundary wall. We seek to, enhance that. Construction of the vehicle access, turning and parking space as provided, and to ensure the provision of the electrical vehicle charging facility. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Katrina. Very comprehensive. Are there any questions of a technical nature for the council officer? Before I open the debate, members, may I remind you to direct any questions or remarks through the chair, and I will invite members to speak in turn. I also ask members to introduce themselves and speak directly into the microphones, which should be kept on mute when not speaking to preserve audio quality. I now open the debate to members.
Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, this is only here for a technical reason due to the fact it's on our land. I see no issues with it. Reading through the papers and also with the presentation given, and therefore I'd like to propose it for approval.
Councillor Paul Kimber, Portland. I'm glad the Conservation Officer took this back. It does look fitting for Bridport, and I'm sure this building will be built very, very quickly and be made to a good use. I know I myself would go down to Bridport sometimes for the arts, for arts reasons. I know. one of those, hadn't been in the Navy. So yeah, I'm happy to second it, or if it hasn't been seconded to you. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber. That has been seconded. Anyone else wishing to speak? Committee, we have a proposition to approve, which has duly been seconded. I will now put it to a confirmation with a show of hands. This is four. Yeah. That's unanimous.
Yeah. So right to go and get them?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
No, that was a decision. I overruled you.
That's all right. That's all right. I don't. Welcome back, Councillor. Well, Councillor, please. Councillor Williams, welcome back. Thank you. Right, committee, I will now take item 5B on the agenda. Application number PFUL 2022-02129, Le Petit Canard, Dorchester Road, Maidenewton, Dorset, DT2 0BE, and that's for a change of use from restaurant class E to a single dwelling class C. I now invite Joe Langerish-Merritt, the case officer, to introduce this item. Over to you, Joe.
Thank you, Chair. As you've said, this is an application for the change of use of the building from a restaurant to a single dwelling. The application has been brought to committee at the request of... Sorry. Is that better? Oh, yeah, hang on. Is that better? There isn't a lot of room, no. Is that better? Can you hear me? Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So the application has been brought to committee at the request of the ward member. The site is located within the centre of the village of Maiden Newton, directly adjacent to the A356, which is just shown here, which runs through the village. It's a mid-terrace property in a prominent location in the village. It's not listed, but it is within the conservation area. Again, here's another slide just to show the context within the village. Currently, the building has the restaurant use on the ground floor with the residential flat above. This is just some elevation showing the property as it is at the moment, and there is a rise in ground levels as you get towards the rear of the property. The proposed change of use would see the restaurant area at ground floor be converted to a sitting room and the commercial kitchen at the rear being changed into a kitchen dining area. The small store at the rear would be demolished, increasing the size of the garden. On the first floor, the existing residential accommodation would be converted to form 4 bedrooms. External alterations are minimal. It's just the removal of the store, which is this element here, and the removal, obviously, of the signage at the front. So we'll just move on to some photographs. So this is just showing the property from the street scene. Internally, this is the existing restaurant area, and this is the store at the rear to be removed. And again, this just shows the store area that's to be removed at the back. So the main issues relate to the loss of the community facility. The restaurant is currently closed and has been since the first lockdown, but it does still operate a click and collect takeaway style service 2 nights a week. And this is a correction to my report. Policy Com3 is quite specific in that the loss of community facility will not be permitted unless it can be demonstrated that there is no longer a need or it is not viable, and that there is no other community need or one would not be viable. No specific evidence has been submitted to suggest that the restaurant business was not viable or could not be made profitable. A list of similar uses in the area was provided, but these have traded alongside one another for many years without any issue. This does not suggest that a small restaurant is no longer required or viable in this location. This restaurant in particular offers or offered something other than the others in the area. It was a fine dining restaurant. This in turn would have encouraged more people into the village, contributing to its vitality, and is likely to have benefited the other businesses by giving others an idea of what was on offer in the village. The premises has not been formally marketed, but an opinion was gained from a local estate agent, which suggested that due to the constrained location of the site, and as there are other restaurants in the area, the premises is unlikely to gain any other reasonable offers. However, this was not tested. There has been no consultation with community groups. The agent has said that due to the domestic size of the space, it would not lend itself to meetings or activities, but again, this has not been tested. The site is also in a sustainable location with links to both bus and train services, and therefore could serve a wider area than just the village. If this facility was lost, there is likely to be a greater reliance on travelling to other locations for similar facilities and services. External alterations would be minimal, as I've suggested. However, there would be some impact on the conservation area, with a visual interest in the vitality of the restaurant and its presence being lost from the street scene, creating a deadened frontage. However, whilst this is regrettable, this is not considered to cause harm to the conservation area. We have therefore recommended the application for refusal on the basis that the proposal would lead to the loss of a community facility in a sustainable location. The local planning authority is not satisfied from the information provided that this village facility could not continue as a viable concern. Furthermore, it has not been demonstrated there is no alternative community use for the premises. The loss of the facility would place greater reliance on travel to alternative locations for facilities. The proposed change of use is therefore contrary to policy Com3 of the West Dorset Weymouth Portland local plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Joe. I also invite Kathy Craig, the applicant, to address the committee. Please speak directly into the microphone. You have 3 minutes. Over to you, Kathy.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Craig, and along with my husband Jerry behind me, we have had 22 years of trading as a small, successful restaurant, Le Petit Canard, in Maiden Newton. This has also been our home during this time. However, trading has become more difficult over the past few years, particularly when COVID struck, although we did our best to operate, offering our food collection service on Fridays and Saturdays. We continue to do this now. However, in April 2021, my husband, the chef, became seriously ill, requiring surgery with a 4-month rehabilitation period. This was a very difficult time for us both personally and business-wise. Employing an agency chef during that time was financially impossible, and this meant that we had to close. We wish to convert the restaurant into domestic use so that we may continue to live in the place that we've called home for over 20 years. We will still be able to offer our outside catering services from here, something that we set up in 2021, in September 2021. We continue to offer high quality food in people's homes, but on a smaller, more manageable level for my husband. The Parish Council supports this application, and they are the body most closely impacted by the changes. They agree that there are adequate alternative facilities. Should this application be refused, it won't mean that the building will be used as another restaurant or community use. The business is not a viable operation any longer, and it is unsuitable for other community uses. This is a common sense approach. We would ask that we don't have to go through the time and wasted expense of having to formally market the property for an extended period of time, simply to come to the same inevitable conclusion. We did originally engage local agents who advised that we were unlikely to get any reasonable offers or interest. The facility of the restaurant is sadly already lost, and it isn't coming back. There is no loss of employment. This has already happened, and we only employed a handful of casual staff. There are sufficient small community facilities available in the village, and it is not the case that the approval of this application would place a greater reliance to travel to alternative locations. This is a real-world outcome, not the dogmatic, strict application of policy. Notwithstanding what planning officers have recommended, you, as members of the Planning Committee, are quite entitled to balance this with the material considerations before you and to come to an alternative position and approve the application. The support for the application from the Parish Council and local residents and the complete absence of any objections to the application should hopefully convince you of the local view of this application from people who would be most directly impacted. Their support should hopefully give you comfort that approving this application is the right thing to do, and I would respectfully invite you to approve this application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Kathy. I now invite Councillor Tony Alford, the ward member for Egerton, to address the committee. Tony, you also have 3 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think the report we've been given is a little bit curious in some ways, because it seems to set a demand that the applicant should prove a negative. That is about... Oh, right, okay. I'll speak more loudly. Is that better? Yes, I was just saying that I feel as though the reports we've been given here is somewhat curious because it seems to invite the applicant to prove a negative. You know, that there isn't a demand, you know, for restaurant services in this location. Now, I would argue that there are examples of surviving businesses. You only have to have a look at Brewery Square to see a restaurant that will trade successfully. It needs scale, and these restaurants these days operate at massive scale, you know, far in excess of the opportunity or scope of Le Petit Canard. So they operate at scale and also with national branding. So people recognize the brands as nearby car parking. So this is the sort of restaurant offer that works in this current day and age. So I do have to say it should be obvious to all of us that the economics of a facility like Le Petit Canard really just will never work in the current day. And this is the reason for the application. There is another thing that was curious as well, because there is no mention of the 5-year supply of land for housing and the impact that that has on housing policies. Things may have moved on, but my understanding is that policies in the local plan have been disapplied as a result of it. We can best look at the strategy that we have as a planning authority. And our planning strategy is all about place shaping. And that, of course, is supported by one of the pillars of the NPPF. So times have changed, and we need to recognise that. And I will just draw your attention to a photograph that you put up on screen of the front of the restaurant. And it's quite clear that it forms a sequence or a match with its neighbouring properties. So it seems to be quite fitting that this change to residential should be made, and it suits the whole image of the street scene that you can see there. Also, you haven't shown us a picture of this, but if you turn 180 degrees, you then see what might be described as the commercial area of the business, where the stores are, where the cafe is, where the hot food takeaway is. So there is a supply of facilities for the public, certainly in food, and also in community. The community offer is very high in Maiden Newton as well. So I don't think people are clamouring for a revival or a restoration of this restaurant. I think all the comments that have been sent in have supported this change to residential, and I certainly recommend that myself.
Thank you, Councillor Alford. I now call on Jo Languish-Merritt to respond with any salient points she may wish to clarify. Back to you, Jo.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to say that we do have a 5-year land supply as a council, and that Maiden Newton is a sustainable location for housing. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Is there any other technical questions for the case officer? Councillor Kimber.
Chair, I wonder if you can let me know how many, I don't go to Maiden Newton very often, but I wonder if you can tell me what there is there for local people. Is no doubt there's a local pub that is a restaurant. Is there very much there?
Village, there is the Chalk and Cheese Public House. There is number 64 Newsagents and Cafe, and there is also Riverside Takeaway, which is like a fish and chip shop.
Are there any other technical questions? Councillor Dunseith.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wondered, was there any dedicated parking for patrons of the restaurant?
No, there's no dedicated parking for the restaurant, so there'll be no change to any parking or highways facilities or anything.
Councillor Worth.
Councillor Ireland, Chairman.
Councillor Ireland.
Sorry, mine was non-technical as well. I thought we'd have finished that. So.
Any technical questions for the case officer? Okay. I now open the debate to members, and I've got the first one to speak is Councillor O'Leary.
Councillor. Yes, thank you. I think this has to be one of the most bizarrest applications I've seen brought to committee. This isn't a community centre. This isn't a village shop. This is a private business, and it is private property. And if these people who own this property wish to convert it from a restaurant to a house, we should not stop them in their way. The market decides whether there are demands for these things in terms of restaurant. There's other outlets in this village. We have no business trying to micromanage the economy of restaurants in Maiden Newton. It's obvious that this should just be regarded as the rights of private property and individuals to make decisions about what they want to do with that private property. And therefore, I'd like to propose that we allow, I'm trying to think if I'm proposing or recommending refusing. I'm recommending that we allow these people to be able to convert their restaurant into a residential unit.
John Worth, Chairman. Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Right, okay, we've got a proposal on the floor for rejection of the officer's recommendation. I'm looking for a seconder before I continue. Councillor Worth.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, so I do wish to second the proposal. This is a small restaurant in a small village. It will have limited number of people that can draw to it. It had a fine reputation. However, in this day and age, to run a fine dining restaurant, it is very, very difficult to do it with limited number of covers. And I think that the opportunity to market this to somebody else that will be interested in running it will be very limited because the business opportunity really isn't there. So that's why I'm happy to second this proposal.
As we've got a proposer and a seconder to reject the officer's recommendation, I now seek your guidance for a reason. Could I therefore come back to you to actually construct a reason for refusal of the officer's recommendation?
Common sense.
Apart from common sense, I'd like to argue on the fact that it would add to the 5-year house and land supply, if that's a valid reason.
Thank you, Chair. I do have.
Me. Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to say that the 5-year land supply wouldn't be a valid reason. We're not actually creating another residential unit here. We're effectively expanding the unit that already exists upstairs. So it's an extension of existing dwelling rather than an additional dwelling. Therefore, that wouldn't be a suitable reason, Chair.
Duly noted, sir. And I will now come back, if I may, supersede the list of speakers to the Vice Chairman who would like to say a few words.
But thank you, Chairman. I can think of 2 reasons why we need not support this recommendation, and that is the impact on the community and other services. This restaurant hasn't functioned as a restaurant for over 2 years. They've not had it for that period of time, and they're not going to miss it. So the impact on the community and other services is 0. And also the economic impact and sustainability would be another reason that I would object to this recommendation. Thank you.
I'm going to go back to Anne Collins for any comments regarding those reasons.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, you could use reasons that you feel it will have minimal impact on the community and the economy. They would be a suitable reason for reaching a different conclusion.
I'm now going to go back to the proposer and the seconder if they are in agreement with those reasons.
Councillor Ireland, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. I think things have moved on, but since I did type something, I want to say it anyway. There were many times where I actually thought of going to the restaurant because it had as you say, a good reputation. But the problem is I live in Osmington, and according to this council, Osmington isn't sustainable, but apparently, Maiden Newton is. But the problem is, to go to a sustainable location, you need to live in a sustainable location. Plus, there needs to be links between the two. So, my only options were to get taxi, which would have been eye-watering expensive. It's expensive enough to go to Dorchester, or I could have driven. But if I'm going to drop quite a decent amount of money on a nice meal, I quite like a glass of wine or two. So I never went, which is a shame. And then, so I thought, given the fact that the report says you can get there by bus or train, I thought maybe if I lived in Dorchester, how would I do that? So I looked at timetables last night, and you can't get to Maiden Newton at night time in the evening because there is no bus service. It finishes about 5 o'clock. So that's out. You could on some nights get a train from Dorchester West, but you get there way too early. So you'd have to spend about 90 minutes in the pub, go and have a meal, and then you'd have to spend another two and a half hours before the train, just before 11 o'clock, stagger back to the station, and then go back to Dorchester. So I suspect most of the people who use that drove there, or they got somebody to drop them off. So it's not really a sustainable location for a restaurant, and it's got a small number of covers, and it's not viable, as the applicant has already said. So, and when I was thinking about this last night, I was thinking about the Sheaf of Arrows, which is a pub on the A37 near Melbury Osmond, which another planning committee of this council rejected their application to convert to a property recently because they said they didn't demonstrate it was viable. It's a pub in the middle of nowhere, nobody around it. Pubs are closing hand over fist every day, and yet we're persisting with making them demonstrate that it's not viable when everybody knows it isn't. So I'm totally support Councillor O'Leary. We should be supporting their application, and I'll be voting with him.
Just going to take advice.
Councillor Kimber, Chairman, followed by Councillor Bolwell.
Councillor Kimber.
Thank you, Chair, fellow councillors. My thinking is one of the concerns I have with how many applications are, we have large areas. And I look at some of those areas and there's absolutely nothing there for the community. Are we setting up a precedent at Maiden Newton for others to follow if their businesses are struggling? That's maybe it's a technical question I should have asked at the time to the officers, but just a concern that possibly this may have an effect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber, and apologise to Councillor
Anne Collins, Chairman.
Thank you. Clayton. Sorry, Councillor Clayton. I did know that you wanted to speak, but now I know that you don't wish to.
I was just going to offer another reason to support Councillor O'Leary, but everything I wanted to say has just been said by other councillors, so I can't see the point of repeating it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to now go back to Anne Collins for some comments.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Kimber does have a valid point, and this is the reason why we have policy COM3 in our local plan about requiring applicants to provide evidence as to why the business is no longer viable in terms of possibly accounts, marketing, etc., rather than it being a personal choice. I hear what Councillor Leary said about, people should have their own private rights and personal choice. But if we did that and we didn't consider it as part of a planning application and put the relevant tests in place, we could lose all our community facilities tomorrow in Maiden Newton. So we do need to be careful as officers and members as well, that we are making sure our decisions are based on sound evidence. And the issue here really is we've had that lack of evidence to actually demonstrate that a restaurant or another facility, it doesn't have to be a fine dining restaurant, but another facility would not be viable or needed in this location.
I think that makes that clear. Okay, I now pass over to the Vice Chairman who'd like to say a word.
Thank you, Chairman. It's been said by both the case officer and Kathy Craig in their submissions that nobody's likely to buy it, according to people that you've spoken to. You've spoken to a local estate agent, and I think you did the same, Mrs. Craig, did you? Okay, so it's a dead duck as it is. They're not offering a, no pun intended.
Little duck.
It's a dead little duck with French connections. So it's dead in the water. They're offering a food pickup business at weekends, which is good, and I believe you're going to carry on with that. But to say that in the recommendation that it would devoid the village of an important community facility, and that is a quote, it's not true really, because you've got other places you can go to. You've got the pubs, you've got the chippy, which I've been to on the way back from Chard, you know, and I think the whole recommendation I think is wrong, with respect. Thank you, Chairman.
Did we got any other speakers?
No further speakers, Chairman.
I'm going to
Councillor Ireland, Chairman.
Councillor Ireland.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything Councillor Pipers has said, but I think in defence of the officers, that there is a policy in their local plan, so therefore that I don't think they had any option other than bring it to committee. I'm glad they did and given us the opportunity to disagree with their recommendation, but you know, it is what it is.
Okay, I'm going to go back to Anne Collins. We've now got a proposition duly seconded for refusal of the officer's recommendation. Do we need to amend or compile a form of words to back that up?
No, Chair, we're not drafting a reason for refusal, so you can just vote on refusing the officer recommendation and then a motion potentially to approve it. In terms of conditions, if you were looking to recommend that the application be approved, we would just need conditions about standard 3-year time for implementation and the approval of a plans list. And we would just we'd make the recommendation, delegate authority to the head of planning or the service manager for development management and enforcement to approve, subject to the agreement of conditions with yourself, Chair.
Thank you for that. I'll now ask the proposer and the seconder if that form of words is acceptable to them.
Councillor O'Leary.
Okay. We can now take a vote on a show of hands to refuse the officer's recommendation. All those in favour? Against? I was just doing some calculations, which I did. 9. That is 9 members of the committee voting to refuse the officer's recommendation and 1 against. Therefore, that recommendation is refused. Right. Now we need a recommendation now, and I have an assumption that in fact the previous proposer and seconder will now propose the recommendation to accept the original application. Thank you. Right, do we need another vote on that? Yeah. Okay, the recommendation now is to accept the original application. All those in favour? See, 9. Against? That has also passed 9 votes to 1. No abstentions. The recommendation is passed with the reasons as outlined by our
Vice Chairman.
Vice Chairman. It wasn't actually. It was the area manager, Southern Western team.
She just likes my ideas.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much indeed for drawing that to my attention. We now take item 5C on the agenda, application number P CLP 2022-06165, Atlantic Academy Portland, and that's Levett Road, Portland, Dorset, DT5 1FN. And this is for the erection of additional 2 in number classrooms within courtyard of existing school, erection of storage building, a replacement of external windows and doors. I now invite Robert Parr, the case officer, to introduce this item. Over to you, Robert.
Chair, Robert is going to appear on the screen. There he is, because unfortunately, due to weather conditions where he lives, he's been able to not join us in person, but he'll be able to present it on the screen to you.
Morning, councillors. Can I just ask a technical question? How am I going to share my presentation? I can't see a share button on my options at the moment.
It should be there, Rob, in the same way that if you're in the room.
Yeah, it's not coming up at the moment.
Okay, shall I share the presentation for you in the room? Hang on.
Could you? Thank you. Okay. Good morning, members. Thank you for having me today. This is, as mentioned before, this is a application for a certificate of lawfulness of proposed development. Applications from the Department for Education, and it is for the erection of additional 2 classrooms within the courtyard of existing school, erection of storage building, replacement of external windows and doors. Next slide, please. The application site is located on the north-west side of Portland, indicated by the star there on the aerial photograph. Next slide, please. This is the location of the site with a red line around it. It's with Lerrett Road to the north and Castle Road to the east. Next slide, please. To provide some context, this is an aerial photograph of the site. You can see it has some playing fields to the south and some residential properties to the south east. Next slide, please. And again, to provide some context and perspective, here's a 3D view of the site. You can see it's quite an interesting shaped building, and obviously exists, although it is currently vacant, although it has been used as a school in the past. Next slide, please. So here we have the proposed roof plan. In the centre of the oval shaped building is the proposal for the 2 classrooms. They will provide teaching areas for catering and design, and also storage and toilets. And then to the north of the site, you can see we have this detached storage building. Next slide, please. This is just a floor plan of the ground floor with the two classrooms on the sort of left and right of the building, and the storage obviously is basically open plan for storage to the north. Next slide, please. These are some elevations provided by the applicant, which show the replacement of the doors and windows. I think it might be worth pointing out that the proposal is that these would meet Passive House certification and be triple glazed, and so I think that's one of the main reasons why they're looking to replace those. They're broadly speaking very similar design and colour to existing. Next slide, please. This is the elevations of the building, and at the bottom left there, we can see the storage building. If you go to the next slide, please, should be a close-up of that. That would be the external building. It would be about 6 meters long. Or just go back one, please. About 6 meters long, approximately 4.6 meters wide, and about 3.6 meters in height. Next slide, please. And these are the elevations of the external elevations of the courtyard building. Next slide, please. And these are just some sort of close-ups of that, just to enable it a bit more readable for members. Next slide, please. So the consideration with this application is really whether or not the development is permitted development and as such lawful. And we've assessed that against Schedule 2, Part 7, Class M of the Town and Country Planning General Permitted Development Order. The conclusions being, having done that thorough assessment, that the proposals would be permitted development and as such lawful. Next slide, please. Therefore, as it's considered to be permitted development, the recommendation is to grant a certificate of lawfulness, and the recommendation is fully detailed there below and in the report. Thank you. That's my presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to interject and just mention to the committee that this is actually the first of its type that's come to committee. We didn't previously bring certificate of lawfulnesses here. This is actually on Dorset Council land, which is why it's been brought to Planning Committee. And we had some recent legal advice that said that these types of applications should also come before you. But I just wish to clarify that it will not be for your consideration as to the scale, appearance and impact on amenities or general planning policy. It is down to whether the development is permitted development or not. So your consideration should follow the permitted development guidance and run through that was in the committee report only. All right, thank you.
Right, I'm just about to ask if there's any technical questions, but just a reminder that, of course, as has just been said, we're only determining the lawful use of certificate of lawfulness and not deciding on design or any aspects of the application. Are there any?
Councillor O'Leary, Chairman.
Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Chairman. As this is once again a technicality on the fact that it is on our land, I would therefore like to propose this for approval.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hyde.
I know you said there's triple glazing. Is that because of the noise or for better insulation reasons?
It's to improve the thermal insulation of the building. So they're just seeking to upgrade the thermal capacity of the building.
Only say it's great that this building is going to be used at last.
Okay, we've got a proposition duly seconded for acceptance of the certificate of lawfulness. All those in favour? Unanimous. That concludes that particular item. We're now to item 6 on the agenda, urgent items. I have no prior notification of any item of business which is considered to be urgent pursuant to section 100B 4B of the Local Government Act 1972. Item 7 on the agenda, exempt business. I have no prior notification of any item viewed as likely to disclose exempt information within the meeting of the paragraph 3 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 as amended. But members, please remain because item 8 on the agenda will be dealt with under exempt business. So if you can stay with me whilst members of the public, of which we have none, disperse. Okay, before we take item 8 on the agenda then,